Oh my goodness, I cannot believe what David Coulthard has just said on the Formula for Success podcast with the legend that is Eddie Jordan. This is chaos. I don't know which side of the fence I'm sitting on though, as far as David Coulthard's statements on one Sir Lewis Hamilton. Here's how it went. First and foremost, first on the docket, as far as the topics that they were discussing, was George Russell. Eddie Jordan levelling criticism at one Toto the boy who cried wolf for talking about everybody but George Russell. George Russell, lest we forget, was meant to be the next one up as far as Mercedes, the guy that was meant to take Mercedes, the boys and girls from Brackley and Brixworth back to the mountaintop. That was George Russell's lot. But of late, Toto the boy who cried wolf has been talking about anybody but George. It's been Max Verstappen. It's been Andrea Kimi Antonelli. What are we doing, Toto? You know what I mean? Eddie Jordan says that he wants to. Toto should put some respect on George Russell's name because he's a super quick driver. And you don't need to look at how he's fared against Sir Lewis, Carl Davidson, Hamilton to get proof positive of that this year. Lest we forget that he's roundly outperformed Lewis in qualifying pace, lending itself to the theory that Lewis Hamilton is over the hill. Sir Lewis Hamilton, 7-time champion, GOAT settings, Mount Rushmore of F1. That Sir Lewis Hamilton is over the hill. Now, many people in and around the sport have intimated that, myself one of them, 39, soon to be 40 years old, there's only ever been 3 40-year-old or older F1 champions in F1 history. 1950 was the first Giuseppe Farina. 1957 was when Fangio won his final one, and then you've got Jack Brabham in 1966, and those were all 100 years ago. F1, for the avoidance of doubt, is a young man's game, and I only say that to say this: is Lewis going to win another championship? The hallowed 8th, the promise that was 2021. Is he going to go across to the red team and win himself a championship with that chap opposite him? Charles Leclerc, Mr. Speedy, point to point, the quickest F1 driver on the grid, some say, as at October 2024. This was the topic that they broached, but they came at it left field, and it hurts me as a Lewis Hamilton fan. Here's the question that they're asking, and again, set the scene, Cameron. Before they talked about Eddie Jordan was in fine form on the latest iteration of the Formula for Success podcast. Of course, they broached the hot topic that was Lando Norris as versus Max Verstappen. David Coulthard says, you know what, potentially I think Lando Norris can win himself a championship. Eddie Jordan says, I'm not sure that dude will ever win a championship if he keeps going as he's going. Doesn't have the teeth, the requisite elbows. You know what I mean? Max Verstappen is who he is. Eddie Jordan's like, you know what, mate, DC, let's put some respect on Max Verstappen's name. And if we talk about your career, David Coulthard, says Eddie Jordan, let's be honest, Mika Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher had you by the cojones. You were far too nice and kind to these dudes. You knew what time it was. Every time you tried to overtake Michael Schumacher, as an example, he was going to put you in the barrier. Aggressive overcrowd each and every single time. Let's be honest, David Coulthard, Eddie Jordan says, you were far too nice, mate, to be a champion. And that's what the likes of Max and Michael and Lewis and Ayrton, that's what so characterises them. Indeed, they leverage that characteristic to be great and go on to win multiple championships. Their next topic, they talk about George Russell having done so well. And then they get to Lewis Hamilton. And David Coulthard starts to talk about Lewis Hamilton like this. I'm not sure that Father Time hasn't come for Sir Lewis Hamilton as at October the 20th, October 2024. David Coulthard says, the thing about Father Time is that Father Time is undefeated, undisputed, pound for pound, never lost a round. That depending on the intentionality with which you live your life, you can hold off, postpone Father Time. Ultimately, however, you can never fully cessate the march, the charge of the time, the father that is time. Cam goes live, we drop everything. Let's go, Matt Royce, you're far too kind. David Coulthard says, depending on the intentionality with which you live your life, you can pause, postpone even Father Time. But what you can't do is stop the onward march of Father Time. It's impossible because, again, for the avoidance of doubt, per the aforementioned, Father Time is undefeated, undisputed, pound for pound, never has lost a round. And as far as F1 is concerned, it is a young man's game. Okay, so it might not have been back in the 1950s, the inception of Formula One. But now, with all of the technology, all of what's going on, it is a young man game. They get younger and younger by the year. Andrea Kimi Antonelli, they made special exception, right, circumventing the Max Verstappen rule that said you can't even get a super license until you're 18. They wanted to have him in the car when he was 17. This is what I'm talking about, and this is what David Coulthard is talking about as far as Lewis Hamilton's career. Some say that when you get over the hill, when you get to a certain age, the first thing that you lose is a tenth or two in pace. David Coulthard says by virtue of his performance or lack thereof as far as Sir Lewis as versus King George Russell, first of his name, that therefore is proof positive that Lewis hasn't been performing the car. Even last race weekend, he hardly covered himself in glory. I would put forth to DC this opposition, this counter argument that last weekend was not proof positive of Lewis Hamilton's being past his prime. That was all the car, was it not? Okay, so you can argue, counter argument and say, well, George was driving the same car. Yeah, but this is different for Lewis. Lewis, we know, likes himself a car in which he can have a lot of confidence, stable rear settings, V-line settings, sharp last-minute turning, have lots of confidence on the brake owing to his dexterous left foot. It's techie, this. Telling you. But DC says, no, Cameron, you're talking rubbish. Lewis might be over the hill already. And then Eddie Jordan pitches at one David Coulthard, the killer question, the deal breaker per se. Go on then, quick fire, DC. Did Ferrari make a mistake by signing him? DC looks in the camera and goes, does one of these. He doesn't want to answer it. It's like, DC, do not say the wrong answer here, chap. There is an exam answer to this question. Of course they did it. Let me chime in before DC does. Of course Ferrari didn't make a mistake signing Lewis Hamilton. The things that he brings, bloody Nora, you saw what the share did on the back of two things: the signing of Lewis Hamilton and bumper forecast results having been released at the same time. And Ferrari did that deliberately. Why? Because of course they want to become a luxury brand, no longer just a sports car as far as Scuderia Ferrari going forward. It is bigger, deeper than rap, bigger as an agenda than F1. As an entity, these things have to matter. And John Elkann has let you know on a gazillion occasions that he wants to do more with Scuderia Ferrari than just win F1 races. It's bigger, and the symbiosis of brand Hamilton and brand Scuderia is something that we've never seen before in F1, because there's never been a mainstream superstar like Sir Lewis Hamilton in Formula One. That has to count for something, irrespective of what anybody says. If I'm a shareholder at Ferrari, you need to take that into consideration. How are you going to deliver value for me having my money in Scuderia Ferrari as a stock? This all matters, and John Elkann is acutely aware of that, hence his vision. That notwithstanding, if we're talking about sports terms, if we're viewing this decision making through that lens, it gets techie, doesn't it? And hence the big elongated pause from David Coulthard as he looks into the camera lens. He doesn't want to answer, and Eddie Jordan pushes him. Hurry up, DC. Did Ferrari make a mistake by signing Lewis Hamilton at the ripe old age of 39, soon to be 40 years old in 2025? Did they make a mistake, DC? And DC finally caves. Says, you know what, based upon his most recent performances, Ferrari aren't getting the 7-time Lewis Hamilton, prime Lewis Hamilton, 2018 Singapore, 2007 Australia. They're not getting that Lewis Hamilton. His prime is beyond him. He's now getting to that age that he thinks, David Coulthard, and again asserts in no uncertain terms, that Lewis Hamilton is past his prime, and therefore Ferrari made a mistake in signing him. This is chaotic. I can't even speak to it. Look how I've lost for words. This is chaotic. And Eddie Jordan pours fire on this fuel. Here's what he had to say. I agree with you, DC. I think Ferrari absolutely made themselves a big error in signing one Sir Lewis Hamilton. This is where it gets chaos, Crystal, Kayla. I don't know how to respond. I desperately want to fight against it. And again, if you talk about the decision making with the marketing, the symbiosis of brand Hamilton and brand Ferrari in mind, then of course it makes sense. This is era defining, is it not, as far as the two brands coming together? Lewis Hamilton makes himself a decision. Some people would argue that if you are an F1 team and you have yourself the opportunity of signing one Sir Lewis at any stage of his career, then it's a no-brainer. Carte blanche. Give that dude a check and a pen and allow him to write his own number. He's still Lewis Hamilton, for Pete's sake. And if you put him alongside Charles Leclerc, who else better on the grid to learn from Charles? If you think Charles could be the next one going forward, the next Max Verstappen, the guy that's going to put Ferrari on his back, on his broad shoulders and take them back to the mountaintop, then who better to mentor Charles Leclerc, aka modern day Jean Lazy, filtrate out for those mistakes of the unforced variety? Of course you put Lewis Hamilton in that car, but if you look in real time at the evidence, the fact that he's been roundly, comprehensively out-qualified by George Russell, then if you put your F1 meritocracy cap on and forward forecast, if you think Lewis has probably got 3-4 years, you're going to pay him $100 million a year, you can make the case that a Colapinto or a Carlos Sainz Jr. or maybe a Behrman or an Antonelli might have been shrewder signings if, again, you're going to forward forecast how much value you're going to get out of Lewis Hamilton. 2, 3, maybe 4 years maximum if Fernando's past his prologue. It gets techie, ladies and gents. I really want to go scorched earth on David Coulthard, but I cannot. Again, for the avoidance of doubt, what we will never do on this channel is sacrifice true value nor objectivity at the altar of partisanship, though on this occasion I desperately want to. I put forth the case against David Coulthard because it's still Lewis Hamilton. But again, through your meritocracy lens, can you argue genuinely, in good faith, against the supposition that Coulthard and Eddie Jordan put forth? You want me to be honest with you? I don't think I can.